Hi, hello, how you doing? It is a very red, I don't know why I'm this red, a very red editing Luca here to say that my energy in this video that you're about to watch is severely lacking. I don't know what was going on. I think, I'm out of breath. I think I just wasn't in the right headspace for this video, and I was also quite distracted because Jack kept coming in and out, and it just makes for a really flat, non-entertaining video where the energy just, it's not good. And I did consider like refilming it halfway through editing the video, but I have like an hour's worth of footage and I've only edited about 24 minutes worth so far, and that has taken me over 4 days. So I'm not doing it again, I'm sorry. It's not my best work. If you still want to watch it despite this, have fun, I guess. A, I do a terrible job of describing some of these books, and B, one of these books, I completely just invent a whole different plot for it. I start talking about how the grief was really well depicted. There's no grief. Nobody dies in this book. What am I talking about? Like, so I might pop up again in a minute to quickly re-explain, but that is why there hasn't been a video in a while, because the video that I was supposed to put out is this one, and I don't want to film another one until this video has gone out. But I haven't been excited about filming it because editing it, because it's not good. I'm gonna try and make it a bit more fun with the editing and stuff. Enjoy! See you soon. Bye! Hi, hello, how you doing? Welcome back to my channel. I'm feeling incredibly awkward and I don't know why. I think it's just because I haven't filmed in a while and I know that Jack can hear me, so I'm feeling uncomfortable. But hi, how you doing? I hope you enjoyed your holidays. Hope you had a really good Christmas or whatever it is that you celebrate, and Happy New Year's. As I'm filming this, it is actually New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year's Eve. I'm sending out good vibes into the universe. Welcome to the room that we do not talk about. I hate this room. I really, really hate it because it is ugly. So we do not mention it in this household, but I never thought I was going to film in here, but here we are, needs must. Today, I'm going to be needing the computer, which is why we're filming in here, because I am going to be tier ranking all of the books that I read in 2022. I have never done this and I've always wanted to do it, and I think it's a really fun idea for a video. I hope that you have a nice beverage or something to drink whilst we go through all of the books that I read in 2022. Here we go. These are all of the books that I read. It looks like there aren't that many, but I have actually counted just to confirm, and there are definitely 55 books here. Before we start that though, I think that it's important that we analyze this beautiful little list that I have made here. First, I have put the category for she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. These are the best of the best. They're the elite. They're my all-time favorites. Next category is solid. So these are obviously books that probably range around the 4-star rating. They're still exceptional books. Still really, really enjoyed them. You're gonna see Jack passing. They're good books. It's just that they were missing that little something extra to make them a 5-star all-time favorite kind of book. Next category I named One Night Stand. It's one of those books that, listen, we had fun together. It was a good time. It was great. It was entertaining. It was a fun way to pass the evening. But at the end of the day, probably never ever going to think of this book ever again. Probably not going to remember the name of it. Objectively, maybe wasn't the best book I've ever read. One Night Stand. Next category is I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I think that really speaks for itself. I don't think much else really needs to be said about that one. Just sort of disappointing books that I expected more from, that I thought I was going to enjoy, and some of these aren't necessarily even awful books, it's just that, yeah, they were a bit disappointing and didn't meet my expectations. Before last category is Lost to the Abyss, and by this I mean that they were completely forgettable, and I'm not going to remember them, and waste of time. I will not remember these in probably a month. And obviously the last one, Trash, Burn in Hell. Again, self-explanatory. I hated these books. I actively despise them. Alright, brilliant. Now that we've done that, I think we should start. So here we go. Okay, first book on the list is The Kiss Cast by Erin Sterling. This is the sequel to The Ex-Hex, which I've read twice now. I have that somewhere in this list as well, and I will get around to that one. The Kiss Kiss was actually better than the XX, so I enjoyed it. I would say that this one can go into the solid category. It was fun, enjoyable. I would maybe consider rereading it, and I would recommend it. Take a hint, Dani Brown. This is from the, what's it called? The Brown Sisters trilogy. I can't remember what it's called. I read all of these books and it was really surprising because I'd never really gone into romance before, and then I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is over here and I will talk about in a minute. But unfortunately, Take a Hint, Dani Brown, by the way, I'm not doing these in any particular order. Take a Hint, Dani Brown was by far my least favorite out of the three. I really didn't like it, and it was so disappointing after reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown, because I loved that one. It's gonna have to go into the I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed category. Next one, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Enough said, really. I'm sorry, if you enjoyed this book, good for you. For me, it was as if the writers of Riverdale decided to also write a book. It was the same energy. It was just, it wasn't good. Next one is Dolly Alderton, Ghosts. I love this book. It's one of my all-time favorite books in the entire world. Easily goes up into, she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. I will happily read anything by this author. This was such a surprise as well because it was a rom-com, and it really made me feel nostalgic about sort of like rom-com, 90s rom-com films. That was the vibe. It really reminded me of that. Poignant at times, and the whole storyline with her father was just really touching. So yeah, easy peasy, one of my most favorite books of the year. Last Hang Standing, Lost to the Abyss. I couldn't tell you what even happens in this book. I think it was just not really my cup of tea, clearly. There wasn't anything particularly wrong with it. I think it was like another sort of rom-com, and it featured the same tropes of having parents sort of put pressure on their children to get married and to do well and all the rest of it, and it just didn't stick with me. I remember I DNF'd this book, but I think I got to about the 80% mark, and yeah, as I say, I can't remember anything about it. Completely erased from my memory. Okay, next one is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, which this was super duper popular. I feel like it's still slightly popular on like things like BookTok and stuff. I never ever picked it up. Finally decided that I would give it a go this year. I realized it was quite short, so why not? All I'm gonna say. Cackle by Rachel Harrison. Harrison or Harrodson? Sorry. I think this one's gonna be One Night Stand. It was a really good autumn book. I think like it would work for a lot of people, and a lot of people would really love it. For me, it was just okay. It's definitely not a favorite, but it wasn't a bad book. It was definitely vibes over plot. 50/50 was the first book that I read this year. It's a thriller. It's a, what is it? I can't even remember. It's sort of a, it takes place during a trial, which usually I always enjoy. But in this case, one of those Lost to the Abyss. So there we go. Wrong place, wrong time. I've talked about this quite a few times on my channel. 100% one of my all-time, hello? Let me go back up. Thank you. One of my all-time favorite books I've ever read. It was such a surprise as well because I sort of just picked it up on a whim. Exceptional. I've talked about it already quite a few times, but loved it. Highly recommend. Jeremy loved it, so there you go. Crying in H Mart. I'm thinking of putting this one in solid. It probably deserves to be higher, but although I think it was an exceptional autobiography, or is it an autobiography? A memoir? I think it was exceptional. The writing was incredible. It was a really incredibly moving book, and it was so interesting how she wove stories about her mother and how she wove them together with food and sort of memories, or food that's related to memories, if that makes sense. It was incredibly well done. It was a really good memoir, and it was definitely really touching. It hasn't stayed with me that much. I don't really think about this book. I don't know, it just hasn't stayed with me. So I would say solid. It is a really good book. I believe I gave it 4 stars. And I would highly recommend that you go and read it if you're into memoirs. Be warned that obviously it touches upon some really difficult subjects and it is sad. It's not an easy book to go through, but it was a really good one. Get a life, Chloe Brown. This was so good. I'm hesitating. Is it an all-time favorite? I think so, because it is the book that got me into rom-coms. Essentially this year I've discovered that I really enjoy rom-coms. I enjoy a whole new genre that I had never really thought was going to be my cup of tea, and then I just gave this one a go and had so much fun with it. I think it deserves to be all the way up here. It's what got me reading a lot of other rom-coms and therefore has led me to finding a lot of new favourites, so I think it deserves its place. Next one is Home Before Dark by Rating Sager. I think this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think I might put it up in solid. But then if I put it up in solid, I think that's a disservice to Crying in H Mart, because Crying in H Mart was like on another level to Home Before Dark. I don't think it... No, okay, I can't do that. I'm gonna put it in One Night Stand, although it's a one night stand that I've returned to. I've read Home Before Dark twice now. I don't think that, objectively, I don't think it's an incredible book. I think the writing is quite poor, especially the writing of the female character. She's just a totally unconvincing main female character, but it's just perfect for October. I really enjoyed it. It's Haunted Mansion and it really worked for me, and it's one that I wanted to return to again get those sort of Halloween-y feels. So I can't say that it's bad because obviously it was good enough for me to reread, but yeah, as I say, objectively, not a good book. The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, one of my all-time favourite thrillers. I bought this one for Jack's dad for, when was it? Was it last Christmas? I can't remember, but I bought this one for Jack's dad and I would recommend to anyone. If you enjoy thrillers, then you definitely got to give this one a go. I thought that it was going one way. It's heavily inspired, by the way, by Strangers on a Train by Patricia Highsmith. Hang on, sorry, I'm just repositioning myself. It took me by surprise. Loved the main female character. Can't remember her name now. Really good thriller. The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I only got around to reading this year. I really enjoyed the first book. I'm excited to continue the series. However, I was slightly disappointed by it. I didn't enjoy the romance. I think the part that I was the most invested in, I can't really talk about because it is a big spoiler, but there's this relationship between two characters that I really enjoyed, and the twist 100%, I remember like my jaw dropped and I was so surprised, and it was the only part of the book that actually surprised me. So I did really enjoy that element. The rest of it I found kind of boring. I was kind of just dissociating and thinking of other things and like thinking of my like shopping list. So next one is Harry Potter. As you probably know from all of my other videos, I've been rereading the entire Harry Potter series and I've been highly enjoying it. So this one is, which one's this? This is the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in she's an icon, she's a legend, and she's the moment, just because she is the first. She is the first Harry Potter book, and she was exceptional. Good time. Being able to go back and see these characters and get more from the characters has been so enjoyable. When Do You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. I think this one deserves to be in One Night Stand. Enjoyed this one. Again, sort of picked this one up on a whim. It's not my usual cup of tea. It's a YA sort of coming of age story about this young girl who's really into theatre and musicals. She's a big fan of like Mamma Mia. It's just a fun little story. I think it was written really well. Yeah, I think it deserves its spot, but it's not going to be an all-time favourite. As I say, I don't really remember it all that well. Lemon. Lost to the Abyss. I remember that was just a really weird book. It was again one of the first books that I read this year, and I think it's also quite out of my comfort zone. It's not something that I would usually go for, and unfortunately it just flopped for me. More Than You'll Ever Know. Okay, so I read this. I don't know what brought my attention to it, but I gave it a go, and it was surprisingly really good. I'm not going to try and explain it to you because I'm going to spout lies. Surprised me. It was a good time. I'm going to put it in One Night Stand because I wouldn't ever go back to it again, and it wasn't incredible. It didn't blow my mind away, but it was a solid read. Next one is Meet Cute Club, which was extremely short. I think the audiobook for this one was like 2, maybe 3 hours. I was interested because it sounded really cute. It's like a little sapphic romance, is that the correct term? It was cute, it was sweet. However, probably gonna forget about it, so it's lost to the abyss. Brutal. Magpie by Elizabeth Day. This one's difficult. I remember hating it for the, like, I'd say about 60% of the book I hated it, and I also 100% saw the twist coming. There are a few twists in the book. I think it redeemed itself a little bit towards the end, but all in all, no, I think that's too harsh. Trash? Ooh, I don't know. I don't know where to put this one. I don't want to put it in this category because I didn't really have any expectations for it, but I wouldn't say it's like one of the worst books. I think maybe Lost to the Abyss again. I think it's just one of those books that I'm not really gonna look back on. It's in my past now. People We Meet on Vacation. This was my first ever Emily Henry book, and after reading this book, I bought all of the other books. I didn't even like give her a second chance to be sure. Like, I just bought all of her other books. I've yet to read them. I've been busy, but I really, really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 5 stars. I thought the writing was impeccable. I really liked the friends to lovers romance in it. And it was fun. It was just a good time. It was uplifting. Loved it. Really liked the writing. There are actually some books that I was not expecting to see up here, so that's nice. The Holidays, 100% One Night Stand. I talked about this book recently in a different video, did I? Yeah, I did. I talked about this book. I was reading it around the Christmas period, which obviously it is a festive book, so perfect time to read it. And it was great for getting into like the Christmas mood. I really liked, because as I was saying last time, I was surprised because I didn't realize that it was a time loop, which I think is great. I think it's a nice added element. It makes it just a little bit different, but unfortunately the end was just way too over the top for me. I hated the last, like, the epilogue too much. It was too sweet and cringy and like everything's pink and rosy and good in the world and what. Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. If you've seen the video where I talk about this, you will know that honestly this is probably my worst read of the year. So disappointing, so just repetitive, the exact same discussions between all of these cardboard characters mixed in with a little sprinkling of misogyny. Just awful. Such a disappointment as well, because it was my favourite episode with David Suchet. It was bad, it was awful. It can burn, baby, burn. Act Your Eve, Eve Brown. This was the last installment in the Brown Sisters series. I think I'm gonna put in solid. It wasn't as good as Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I don't think any of them will beat the first book, but it was definitely leagues better than Take a Hint, Danny Brown. It was enjoyable, so I'm gonna put it up there. Enough said. The Witch Haven. DNF'd this one. DNF'd this bad boy. It just didn't captivate me. So probably Lost to the Abyss. I'm probably going to forget about this book. I gave it a shot. Finley Donovan it'd be great if I could talk. Finley Donovan is killing it. I know that I didn't say that correctly, but I'm not going to say it again because you just know that I'm not going to manage to get it out. I think I can safely put it into this category. It was a good time, it was fun, but was it a great book? Was the writing really good? Will I remember it? No. Will I maybe read the sequel? Yes. I think I'm gonna save the sequel. It's kind of one of those books that, you know, like if you're sort of in a reading slump or you don't know what to read next, or my camera stopped recording for some reason, so I don't know what that was, but anyway. It's kind of one of those books that when you're between 2 different books and you don't have anything to pick up and you're not really sure what to go for, this one's a good option. Secret Society of Irregular Witches, 100%. Goes into the solid book category. Jack?
You alright?
Nothing.
Hey.
I've said this before in a video. Again, I'm repeating myself a lot with a lot of these books, but The House in the Cerulean Sea, that's essentially what this book is, but with witches. What more could I ask for? It was really, really fun, and it's just the same sort of, it just felt like a hug. It was cozy to sit down and read. There was a little tiny small twist that I didn't see coming. All the good feels in this one. Plain Bad Heroines. I forgot that I read this year. One of the best books I've ever read. It was so good. I've just realized I could probably, yeah, that would have been better, wouldn't it? Okay, great. Is that better? Okay, we're gonna leave it like that. Anyway, it was so unexpected because this book kept being shown to me and advertised to me all over the place. I was intrigued, first of all, by the cover, which I think is exceptional. I love me a yellow cover, and because of the title, kept not picking it up because I'd looked at the reviews for it, and a lot of the reviews were really mixed. There were quite a few that really hated it, and then some that really loved it. Personally, for me, I devoured it, and it is a big book, but I went through it really, really quickly. The writing, chef's kiss. The story, I just think that the...
Pissing you off, isn't it?
No.
Well, I have to leave.
Have a good time.
Thanks. I'll text you if I'm coming back a bit early.
Alright, enjoy.
Thanks. I'll say hi to everyone from you.
Alright.
Bye.
Bye. Imagination that the author had to have to even come up with this book is outstanding, and it's so impressive. Yeah, the descriptions were also exceptional, and I felt like if she was describing a smell, you could immediately, you could just, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not very good with words tonight. I'm struggling. And we've still got a lot of books to go through. But yeah, the descriptions were just so vivid, and I could visualize everything. Incredible, incredible book. The Ex-Hex. I'd probably put it in. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I think it's a perfect read for Halloween. Definitely gets you into the fall, am I American? No. Into the autumn mood. Objectively, the plot was lacking. Everything I know about love. Boop. Right up there. Dolly Alderton, say no more. Before the coffee gets cold, oh, the premise is so good. The premise is just what will draw you in. I really liked the idea. I thought it was extremely unique, and I thought that the sort of subjects that were discussed were really, really interesting. I like that the author poses all of these questions about if you could travel through time, would you? Who would you want to see? What is the point of doing it if there are all of these rules surrounding it? Who benefits from it? Yeah, just a lot of interesting questions that were posed. I thought that the overall message of the book was a good one, but I was extremely disappointed in the last story. I personally just not my cup of coffee. Say this is a solid. I would definitely recommend it, and it just had that very unique Japanese feel to it. I think also, quickly, before going into this book, there are two things that you need to know. Number one, obviously it's a translation. Everything, the writing is going to be delivered slightly more bluntly than you might be usually accustomed to. And then on top of that, I think a lot of people didn't realize before going into this book, it was originally intended as a play. You can really feel that when you're reading the book. It is really noticeable. A lot of the descriptions are incredibly visual, so a character will be mostly described by what they're wearing and the color of their clothes. The set obviously all takes place in the cafe, which I really like that. I enjoy that it's just one set and that they never really leave it. Apparently my vocabulary is incredibly limited today, but yeah, I really liked it. Great, thank you, Luca. The next one is I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I think this one broke the internet. This one has been so popular. It was everywhere at one point, and I'm really glad for her because I think that this memoir was incredible. Obviously, the title, perfection. It's such a good idea because it really does just make you immediately interested and you want to find out why she would choose this title for her memoir. Really difficult read at times. I would highly recommend that you check all of the trigger warnings for this one. I knew nothing about Jeanette McCurdy. I didn't grow up watching Disney or Nickelodeon or any of these, but I don't think that you need to have grown up with it. I think obviously if you did grow up with it, then it's going to be, I don't know, maybe a little closer to home, or it might feel a little bit more personal. But from the perspective of someone who didn't really know much about the author before going into it, it doesn't take away from the brilliance of her memoir. And I could do a whole video where I dissect it and go into it, but it was just exceptional. And the cover's beautiful, the title's incredible, the writing was exceptional, and you can tell that she's not just doing it because she's famous and she can. She's doing it because she's genuinely a good writer and she enjoys it and she is good at it. So a real pleasure, that one, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. Legends and Lattes. This was one of my most recent reads as well. Really, really sweet little cozy fantasy, and I just need more of these because there aren't enough. It's so sweet. I recommended it to a couple of my friends saying, honestly, you've got to give this a try because it's just so wholesome. I listened to the audiobook personally and I thought that was a good way to go through it. It's about an orc who retires from her old lifestyle and decides to go and open up a coffee shop in this like little town where they don't even know what coffee is. And she opens up a little coffee shop, and it just follows the story of how she builds it and all the people who accompany her to accomplish her dream. Highly recommend. So I think maybe all the way up at the top. No, because it's not an all-time favourite, so I'll pop it down into solid. Lucy Foley, The Paris Apartment. Moving on. The Long Weekend by Gilly Macmillan. Same category. I'm not even going to talk about it. Sorry, if you're interested in these books, you're more than welcome to go look them up, but I've got other books to get through and these were not. House in a Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. All the way up at the top. I have read this book twice now. I think as I'm getting older, all I want is comfort. And this is just comfort wrapped up in a little book, and it's so sweet. And the second time around was even better, and I will 100% read this again. It's just going to be one of those comfort books that I will go back to. I think it's perfect for people of all different ages, and it's funny, it's sweet. And I also have, like, I think I'm slightly biased in the sense that I read this, the first time I read it was 2 years ago now, I think. 2 years ago. It was when I bought my first ever car, and it was during the summer, and I remember reading this with a little beverage by the pool in the summer, and it just makes me feel warm and happy, and it's got good memories linked to it. So all the way up at the top definitely deserves to be there. Under the Whispering Door, also by TJ Klune. This one was the second book that I read by the author. I was really hoping that it was going to go as well as the first one. I had high expectations because I'd loved the first book so much. I don't think it was particularly bad. It was just a disappointment compared to the other one. The only way I could sort of describe it is it was a bit wishy-washy. I like the idea though. I like that it's sort of a halfway house where when people pass away, they go through this home, and it's to sort of help them move on to the next stage, I guess. Gideon the Knife. All the way up at the top. Don't you know it? We are running out of place. Exceptional. I had this on my shelves for such a long time. Finally picked up thanks to Carrie Can Read. The banter was incredible main character, loved it. Legendborn, I just finished this. This is the last read of 2022. Again, very outside of my comfort zone because it's a fantasy YA, contemporary fantasy YA. Didn't think I was going to enjoy it, and again, Carrie Can Read sort of convinced me to pick this one up and give it a go, and I have absolutely flown through it. And I'm not going to get in too much into detail over it because I am probably going to do a whole video just dedicated to this book because there's so much to say about it. Because yes, it's a YA and it's fun and it's got like training montages in it and the main character goes to a ball. You've got all of that, but it's also so much more. It deals with grief, it deals with race, it deals with just so much. It's incredible. Really, really good writing. It's gonna have to go all the way up here as well. I'm losing space. I didn't think that there were gonna be that many in this category. I'm doing all right. Night Shift by Alex Finlay. Ooh, I've read, I don't remember actually, where should I put this? I've read 2 of his books now, and both of them were like, meh reads. I actually might put it in One Night Stand because it was really meh, objectively not the best book, probably gonna forget about it, but at the time I remember that it was a good distraction. Does that seem fair? I think that seems fair. The Children of Jocasta by Jocasta? The Children of Jocasta by Natalie Haynes. Such a big disappointment. I grew up with my dad reading stories to me about Greek mythology and stuff, and so I really, really love that there have been a lot of books doing retellings of Greek mythology myths. Greek mythology myths of Greek myths. You would never ever guess that I read. Anyway, it was just disappointing. I was also like so excited to pick this up because A, the cover, gorgeous. B, it's by Natalie Haynes, who wrote 1,000 Ships, and it is one of my all-time favorite books ever. I loved 1,000 Ships. Incredible writing and so moving and just fantastic. Anyway, Glass Houses by Louise Penny. Okay, moving on to the next one. Elizabeth is Missing. I'm gonna put this one in the disappointment category because I had already read Elizabeth is Missing quite a few years ago. I think I was a teen when I read it the first time around, and I for some reason remember it being so good, and I remember it being sort of cozy. I remember it having a very dark ending, but it being about like this little old lady who is suffering from Alzheimer's, but she remembers a case and she's slowly putting together clues and figuring it out, and I thought it was just going to be one of those like small town cozy murder mystery vibes, and that's how I remembered it. And then I reread it this year and it was really dark and depressing, like so sad, and it wasn't even that good. So yeah, disappointing, unfortunately. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I'm gonna pop it up in solid because it's not my favorite Harry Potter, but again, just a good time. I have already read the series, but because it's been so long, I remember mostly what we saw in the films, and so it's been really, really nice revisiting the books. Now You See Her. Whoop. A very mediocre thriller, nothing to say about that. Mexican Gothic, maybe an unpopular opinion, but trash. I had completely different expectations of this book going into it. I was really, really excited about it. I was, you know, just expecting Gothic vibes, a Gothic thriller, and I was expecting it to be eerie, and it went down. Root, is that the right word? It went where I wasn't expecting it to go, and it was not my cup of tea, and I was incredibly uncomfortable, but not the good uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable as in this is disgusting and I don't want to read about this and I'm not having a good time, and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, again, gonna put it in solid. It's just, all of the Harry Potter books to me are probably just gonna be a solid, you know? It's just one of those books that you can be sure of having a good time with. I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. I have yet to read Hamnet. I started instead with her memoir, and I thought that it was a really intriguing way of talking about her life. Essentially, she talks about, she uses, what is it? I can't remember. Is it 13? She has like 13 close encounters with death, and that is how she tells her life story. And it was incredibly moving, very well written, times difficult. I'm probably going to pop it up into One Night Stand, although it had a lot of really, really good redeeming qualities. I think for me, there were some stories that just, I mean, obviously when you're going to have that many stories, of course there are going to be a couple that aren't as interesting, but I felt like it started off so strong with the first story that she tells, and then none of them are really as good after that, and some of them just went oh, sorry. I just didn't engage with as much, and some of them were a little forgettable, and yeah, it was kind of like a roller coaster of, okay, this is good. Okay, this is fine. Okay, this is really good. Okay, this is like, ugh. Silence of the Girls. Another one that I was disappointed by. I liked the idea of it being about the Trojan War, but told from the women's perspective. I think that's great. However, I feel like the female characters didn't have much action, if that makes sense. I feel like it still was a lot about Achilles, and I feel like he got a lot of the limelight, and I don't think that it fully succeeded in what the author set out to do. Almost there, guys, almost there. Another one, Ariadne. All of the Greek mythology retellings have gone into the disappointment category, unfortunately. I was really excited for Ariadne, and it is one of my favorite tales or myths. Camilla! I'm gonna pop this one up in, oh, I lost her. Come back. I'm gonna pop this one up in solid. I've talked about this recently. It is a very, very, very short little book. Again, it's gothic tale about vampires, and this was actually published before Dracula, which I think is interesting to know, and it's sapphic, and it is a good time, and it's way, way shorter than Dracula. So if you're scared by the length of Dracula, but you still want a vampire tale, give this one a go. I thought it was genuinely eerie. Like, there are a couple of scenes in it where I was like, I'm uncomfortable, but the good uncomfortable. Mexican Gothic, I am looking at you. It won't take me too long. Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I thought that this one was a good time whilst I was reading it. I really like the vibes. I like that it's stormy. I like that it felt very much like a Agatha Christie kind of type situation that we had going on. The first half was difficult, like not the first half, but like the first quarter was difficult to get through. I had to really push through it. It was kind of boring. But then once the action got going, it was fun and it was entertaining and it was just pure escapism. Still not sure how I feel about the ending, and I feel like it will split readers and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I thought it was okay. Dial A for Aunties, another one that I think is a good one-night stand. It was fun. It was really silly. Like, you really had to suspend your belief for this book because a lot of what goes on, you're like, there is no way that they would get away with this. Like, it just wouldn't. They just would not get away with this. However, the aunties were the main characters. They made this story for me. I thought that they were so fun and sweet, and just honestly, they probably broke their backs from carrying this story. It's one of those books, like, if you just want a bit of entertainment, a bit of escapism, I would recommend the audiobook for this one. Last to Vanish, you can pop right there. Last to Vanish from my memory. Sorry. Okay, and here we go. Last book to put onto this list, and that is The Tenant by Catherine Engberg. Absolute trash. I think this is the second worst book that I read this year. It was terrible, 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 terrible. There was a weird obsession with, actually I'm not going to talk about it, but there was a weird obsession with something in here. The main character was an absolute creep, and I stand by that. I feel like he was supposed to be one of those like Vera Morse kind of characters where you're supposed to like him. Absolutely not. He was a disgusting creep, and he was totally unprofessional, and the misogyny, just so uncomfortable reading it. Absolutely not. If you want a little quick idea, if you want me to rant over a book, here was my review for The Tenant. If it hadn't been for Yepes's perverted ass, he was a creep. He's constantly I don't know if I can say these words, has inappropriate thoughts about his colleagues and behaves completely unprofessionally around women. He's constantly thinking about his... Why do I need about his limp whilst he's in the shower? He's aroused by a witness, which is disgusting. He's supposed to be questioning this woman about a murder case and all he can think about is his, the married woman's, and her posterior. And we're supposed to like this character because he definitely wasn't written as like a bad guy. What is there to like? Disgusting! Anyway, so we've ended on a good note, but there you go. This is my tier ranking for all the books that I read in 2022. Again, I'm sure that I read 58 books, but there are only 55 books here, and I don't know what happened to the other ones, and I can't remember which ones they are, but that's it. These are the books. I will definitely have to do this again because it was super duper fun. I could actually maybe do it for the books that I read in 2021, go over those, or I could tier rank something else, but anyway, you will definitely see me doing something like this again in the future. I had loads and loads of fun with it. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you had a good time, and I will see you very, very soon in one of my next videos. Thank you for watching if you watched till the end, and don't forget to, I'm gonna do the YouTuber thing, that's very annoying, I'm sorry, but don't forget to like the video and leave a comment if you feel like it, and yeah, I will see you very, very soon. Take care, love you all. Goodbye!